We have it. The HBCU Go schedule, football schedule, and what games they'll be covering this year in the SWAC have been released. Let's talk about it, what it means, why it is the way it is after the bumper. Stay tuned. It's good. What is going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? My name is JeffLightsyJr. This is the Victory Formation Sports Show right here on JeffLightsy Jr. YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your content. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload all the time now. During SWAC Media Day, during their broadcast, they released the 2023 HBCU Go schedule. They did it in a segment. The segment that I saw was the one with Charlie Neal up there talking to Tali Carr and the guys there from the SWAC and HBCU game day. And here's what it looks like. I took a screenshot, posted it on my Twitter. My Twitter's at JLightsy7, and I took a screenshot and posted the full entire SWAC schedule for HBCU Go. So here's the first half. We start off right out the bat with two straight classics. Mississippi Valley State versus Central State in the Chicago Classic on Labor Day weekend, September 2nd. And then the Southern Heritage Classic down in Memphis, Tennessee, with UAPB versus Tennessee State. Now, you remember the Southern Heritage Classic for 30 years featured Jackson State. Coach Prime ended that during his time at Jackson. And so now we have the UAPBs filling in, and they will take on Tennessee State in a classic that's over 30 years old. After that, we'll head down to Grambling to see Andrew Body and the Texas Southern take on Coach Hugh Jackson versus Coach McKinney in Grambling State. Next, you have a big game, a game that even Coach Connell Maynard spoke about during SWAC Media Day, and that's their homecoming game, Alabama A&M, that is, in Huntsville versus Tuskegee. Apparently, this is a rivalry. Now, I've never been one to just know everything about the SWAC, but apparently this is a rivalry that dates back years and years, and that a lot of people down in Huntsville are very, very excited about taking on Tuskegee for their homecoming game. And this starts a slew of homecoming games, 4 in a row for HBCU Go. Now, what this tells me, just from a viewer perspective, looking at this first half of the schedule, you've got 2 classics, one the Chicago Classic that they're really building up this year, and 2 the Southern Heritage Classic. And then after the Texas Southern versus Grambling game, you have 4 straight homecomings. And so what this tells me that HBCU Go was going for, just from a guy that's worked in TV before, is that they want to get a ton of content from these events. At these events, you can garner a ton of content, whether it's shooting homecoming stuff, not just football stuff. Obviously, the football is the main thing. And with football, you have bands. And with homecoming, you're going to have great band play from both schools, great dancing from both schools, and the same with classics. And so HBCU Go is looking like they want to up their content rank, because they put out the production for HBCU Go was immaculate. We found that out last year. Their broadcasters, Charlie Neal, their producers, their shooting, their cameras, everything is immaculate. It's way better than what we see on ESPN Plus. But maybe they want to take it up a notch. And that is why you go to homecomings, because you can get a lot of pre-game stuff, post-game stuff, band stuff, dance team stuff, events, all kinds of things. Plenty of content to go around during a homecoming. The same said during the classic. So continuing with the games, the next homecoming they'll go to is Alabama State's homecoming. And that will be against Bethune-Cookman in Montgomery the following week. And then the week after that, they'll go to Bethune-Cookman's homecoming against Texas Southern and finish the homecoming slate with UAPB's homecoming versus Alcorn State. The second half of this schedule goes as follows. They'll travel back to Grambling to see the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats take on the Grambling State Tigers. Then they'll head to Prairie View to go to Prairie View's homecoming against UAPB. And Alabama, after that, back to Daytona Beach for the Bethune-Cookman versus Alabama A&M matchup, and they'll finish up their HBCU Go SWAC slate with a matchup in Houston, Texas, with UAPB versus Texas Southern. Now, the things that jump off right, to anybody that sees this schedule is that 3 of the top teams in the SWAC aren't featured on here. There's no Jackson State. There's no FAMU. There's no Southern in any of these games. That's rough. That's rough for HBCU Go. And the reason why you can see right off the jump that there's no Jackson State, no FAMU, no Southern is because you have to remember HBCU Go has secondary rights, meaning they choose their games from the games that are left over from ESPN, the games that ESPN doesn't choose. ESPN gets a slotted amount of games. I don't know how many, but they get X amount of games. And they may pick up all the Jackson State games. As we like, if you don't know, they did pick up every single Jackson State game. The first 2 Jackson State games are on their linear networks, ABC for the MEAC SWAC Challenge and ESPN2 for the Orange Blossom Classic. And then the rest of their games are on ESPN Plus. I haven't looked at the FAMU schedule, but they probably picked up a ton of FAMU games and a ton of Southern games. And so that leaves HBCU Go with nowhere to go when it comes to picking up games for any of those schools. And so that is the issue that they have run into. And so that, and for HBCU Go, can suck because you got 3 of the top teams in the SWAC you don't get to broadcast. It's unfortunate. And so you'll see on here, no, and this is no disrespect to anyone's school, anyone's program, because I don't want to be disrespectful, but you'll see UAPB on here 4 times. You will see Bethune-Cookman on here 3 times. And I think someone in my comments already said, like, yo, is somebody from HBCU Go a UAPB alum? No, it's not that. It's that those games weren't picked up by ESPN. And so therefore, those games were left over for HBCU Go, and those are the games that they have chosen to broadcast. It's rough. The fact that you don't have Southern, the fact that you don't have FAMU after having Southern and FAMU on the slate, I think multiple times last year, not to have any games from them, that's rough. The fact that the second year in a row, you don't get to broadcast the Jackson State game. And you would ask, why would ESPN want to pick up every single Jackson State game? Like literally every single Jackson State game is on an ESPN platform. That's because Jackson State fans watch their games. They tune in droves. Obviously, they go to the games. They lead the country in attendance every single year, but they tune in to their games a ton. Now, some of you may say, well, it's only because they had Deion. Well, ESPN seems to not think so. Because if it was just about Deion, they wouldn't have picked up their games this year. Prime's in Boulder. And so ESPN obviously believes that whether they got a boost in ratings because of Deion or boost in ratings because of Shador and Travis or whatever, that a good contingency of those people are going to stick around to watch JSU this year, and not so many of them will stick around to watch a UAPB or Bethune-Cookman. Now it's up to UAPB alums and fans and football product to prove them wrong. Same with Bethune-Cookman. But this is the HBCU Go schedule. Like I said, I hate the fact that there's no FAMU. I hate the fact that there's no Southern. I hate the fact that there's no Jackson State, because I think those schools, no disrespect to the ESPN Plus coverage, but the ESPN Plus coverage does not touch the HBCU Go coverage. It's just not the same. The HBCU Go quality is better. The broadcasters a lot of times are better. Just everything, the production is better. It's obviously it's curated for this style of football, for this type of event. And one thing that I also want to take into account is that Charlie Neal said something very important during the SWAC Media Days. He said one reason why people love the BET days of covering Black college football is because it was all encompassing. It took into account the people that were in attendance. It took into account the play that was happening on the field. Those broadcasters knew what was going on at those cities, at those schools, in that environment. Now, I think HBCU Go is trying their hand at making that a thing as well, making that possible, making sure that those same type of vibes are taking place during their coverage of HBCU football this year. I think they're gonna take it up a notch. You've seen, if you go to their website, they've done different things. They've had a show that's won an Emmy this year or this past year. So I think they're gonna take things up a notch, and they're doing so with this schedule that they have provided. Yeah, it lacks some star power when it comes to names. It does. Not having Southern is lacking star power. Not having FAMU is lacking star power. They're the two teams picked to win both the East and the West divisions of the SWAC. Not having Jackson State is obviously missing star power. They're a team that's the two-time reigning defending SWAC champions. And you weren't able to grab them last year at all. And so if I'm HBCU Go, I like my schedule. I don't love it. I like it. I don't love it, but it is great to see, and it is a lot of content that can be shot with this schedule. With those two classics to start the year, you can do a really good job with that. With the 5 homecoming games, you can get a ton of content with those. One thing Charlie Neal spoke about that you could potentially see incorporated, especially with these homecoming games. Obviously, with homecoming, the HBCUs and homecomings across the country bring in musical acts, right? Maybe the musical act goes to the game Saturday, and maybe, just maybe, you're able to do an interview during the game with said musical act. I don't know who's coming to Alabama A&M or Alabama State or Bethune or UAPB's homecoming. I have no idea. But maybe it's somebody notable, and you can get an interview during the game in the press box with Charlie Neal, Prairie View. I don't know who's coming to their homecoming, but typically it's a nice big-time musical act that people will be interested in, that you could create content with, that you could do some great things. Charlie Neal spoke about interviewing Biz Markie in the 90s, in the 80s, during different games of HBCUs played on BET. I don't know. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Like I said, I like the schedule. Don't love it. Like it. Don't love it because the 3 top dogs in the SWAC aren't included in it, but that's out of their control. So, for what they are in control of, I think it's really good with the homecoming aspects and the 2 classics. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. HBCU Go has released their 2023 SWAC schedule, and it features 5 homecoming games and 2 SWAC 2 classics, the Chicago Classic and the Southern Heritage Classic. My name is Jeff Lightsy Jr. This is the Victor Formation Sports Show right here on Jeff Lightsy Jr. YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get your content. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, and the notification bell because we upload all the time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7. That is on Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.